Hi, hello, I'm Darby. Welcome to another rapid fire review of every book I have checked out from the library since the beginning of 2024. The format of this video could not be any more low effort. I'm just going to go through my loan history on my Libby app and record my reactions to the various books I've attempted to read. I am going to skip a lot of books that I did not finish because there are a lot and there are only so many times I can say like DNF in a row without it being extremely boring for everyone. Alright, let's go. First up, I've got Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I read this as part of my romance genre reading challenge to see if I really didn't like the genre for its substance and content, or if I kind of just like reflexively don't like things that are targeted, made for women. And I surprised myself by liking this a lot. It's definitely like the chronically online sense of humor that's in the book that held my attention. After that, I read and finished Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, also for the romance genre reading challenge. Also, shocked myself by how much I liked it. Next, I read Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang, and this did a great job of being just gross enough, in this kind of literary fiction sort of way. There's another book in this loan history that I attempted to read that was just too actually gross for me and I couldn't finish it. I finished Happy Place by Emily Henry. After that, I read The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson, and this is a nonfiction memoir about Nelson's experience becoming a parent with her trans partner. Some just really interesting, beautiful, poetic thoughts about being queer, trying to raise a family in a very conservative country, and kind of the mixed feelings she has about pregnancy, being a mother, being a feminist, and the writing it resonated a lot with me. February, here we go. I read Below Zero, another Ali Hazelwood book, super short novella, I think. It's only 4 hours long. Enjoyed it for just the popcorn read that it is. I attempted to read In the Margins by Elena Ferrante, and where did it lose me? Like, the first chapter is a very laborious recounting of how, like, a younger female relative of hers, it might be her daughter, it might be like a niece, small cousin, something like that, learning how to read and her reaction to this as a writer. And it was just a little too precious for me. I attempted to read The North Woods and gave up on it. I'm learning that New England doesn't really hold any mystique for me. There's no fascination I have with like Vermont, upstate New York. And that might change, but for now, it was a slog for me to get through and I just didn't finish it. I attempted to read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and it was fine. It was passable up until it got to one of my, literary pet peeves. I just don't like playful bickering in books. It's rarely done well. It makes me cringe. It gives me the ick a little bit. And it's so weird because I do not mind this in movies or on TV shows, just in books. Next, I read Either Or by Elif Batuman, and I really enjoyed it. I loved The Idiot, which is the book that comes before this one. This is a sequel. I just really have a lot of positive nostalgia for that time in my life where, I had my whole big grown-up life ahead of me and I was just really insecure about making big decisions, so I just neurotically tried to find the answers in books. So I really related to the main character's exploration of what it means to live a moral life, an aesthetic life, through her reading of Kierkegaard's Either Or. After that, I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And, Suzanne Collins, the Queen, wrote another solid book. The negative criticisms I've seen of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes have a lot to do with romanticizing, sanitizing an evil dictator's, journey from being medium evil to 100% evil. But for me, that was interesting to read, and I think it says a lot about Collins's writing craft that she can take this, deeply odious, terrible character and make him very sympathetic. After that, I read The Art Thief by Michael Finkel, and this is another rare nonfiction book in my loan history, but it's written like a thriller, super easy to get through. It's about the most successful art thief of all time, true story, and the part of me that loves the Oceans movies, you know, Oceans 11, 12, even 8, had just like the time of my life with this book. After that, I read The Cider House Rules by John Irving, and I did not finish it, but I made it through like 50% of the book. It's a brick, it's humongous. Like, the audiobook is 24 hours, and I listened to 12 hours of it. I listened to the first part, which is about this abortionist in the early 20th century's kind of moral journey to understanding like why abortion is essential healthcare. And I kind of like lost interest when the focus shifted away from him to his like younger protege who goes through a similar, you know, moral evolution. After that, I read Yellowface. I read a lot of books that were from the perspective of like a criminal. Yellowface was one of them. I really enjoyed it. I do think I agree with the criticisms that there could have been some editing in like the last 25% of the book. It got to be a little redundant. There were some scenes that if they had been cut, I think no one would have missed them. All right, getting into March, which was just a terrible reading month for me. I did not finish like half of the books that I checked out. Starting with Naked Lunch. It is, what is it? It's a short story anthology, but there is like a main character that appears in each one of the short stories. They all stand alone. You can read them in any order. But I read chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then felt like I kind of got... I understood what was happening and didn't need to read any more. After that, I tried reading Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond, and I made it 25% of the way through before realizing that this is one of those books that's been around for long enough, has been popular enough for a long enough time, that its major concepts, its major themes have been kind of absorbed by the larger culture. And I also got the sense that if I were to type in Guns, Germs, Steel and the word criticism into like a search engine, it would probably come back with like a bunch of articles debunking stuff, saying, you know, this or that thing was based on something dubious or unresearched. Yeah, so I feel like I got what I needed from it, and then I just stopped reading. I attempted to read On Writing by Stephen King, and I'm really disappointed by how much I didn't really vibe with this book. Like, the whole first chapter is this weird humble brag where Stephen King says just because he's successful at writing doesn't mean he's going to be the best guy to give you writing advice. But like, I kind of wanted writing advice from Stephen King. The other thing about Stephen King is that he has this like very famously disciplined writing regimen that he does, and I had already been exposed to it. So after being exposed to like the short form summary version of it, I didn't really feel like reading the longer form was going to reveal anything new for me. After that, I read My Husband by Maud Ventura, probably in my top 5 books of 2024. I really enjoyed it. This is extremely in my wheelhouse, right? It is a first-person perspective. We live inside the head of this like very interesting, unique, super anxious person. I think it says something about a book where I was like stressed out the entire time I was reading it, and when I was done, I immediately texted like 3 or 4 people asking them if they've read it so that we could talk about it. Next, I read Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. This is about, it's a nonfiction account of the Troubles in Northern Ireland following 4 or 5, like a handful of major players in the IRA, starting from it's kind of right before its formation in the 60s and going all the way to the Good Friday Agreement and kind of the formal dissolution of it. This was slightly dramatized. It was as balanced as you can be about such a controversial like topic. And I feel like I learned a lot about that part of history. Staying in that part of the world, going into Scotland, I tried to read Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan. This is a nonfiction memoir about his experience being a teenager in the 1980s, being really into punk rock music, and being very, very Scottish. And I really enjoyed the parts of the book that were about the 1980s. It was just like fun reading about these gritty, rowdy, punky, sarcastic like teenagers, and where the book kind of lost interest for me, and it says a lot more about me than the book, is when all of these people grow up and start to have adult problems, you know, illness, divorce, things like this. That stopped being as fun to read, and I did not finish it. I read Bliss Montage on a Plane. A plane ride is a magical, low-oxygen environment that just enhances your reading experience. I try to save plane rides for books that I'm kind of iffy about, things that I usually wouldn't read or like. And Bliss Montage is something that, at sea level, stone cold sober, I know I would enjoy. But several tens of thousands of feet up in the air, it was just as good, maybe even better. Alright, going into April. April was another really bad reading month for me. Of these books, I only finished 2 out of like the 10 that I checked out. Next I read The Island of Sea Women, which is about the Haenyeo of Jeju Island of now South Korea, and we follow the journey of this diver woman. That's what the Haenyeo are. They are these like extraordinary athletes who traditionally would go to just remarkable depths in the ocean, unaided by any kind of like diving equipment, no goggles, no swimsuits, like definitely not like oxygen tanks or anything like that. And they would dive down to collect abalone, octopus, just whatever they could find to either feed their family directly or sell in the market. Just like, it's just an extraordinary history that I wanted to learn a little bit more about. Yeah, and this particular Haenyeo survives Japanese occupation, survives like several horrible violent massacres and the repression of a US installed like South Korean dictator. Experiences a tremendous cultural shift from this kind of isolated matricentral, they're not matrilineal or matriarchal, but matricentral society, to one that was trying to absorb more Western, more mainland, like customs and expectations of gender. I think it was beautifully written. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, it's a hard read. It talks about some horrible things in history. So after that, I needed a mood cleanser, right? So I read Green Dot, and that was fantastic. It's a silly, fast read, written with a very like energetic, playful, comedic tone. The jokes landed for me. I really enjoyed it, and it got me kind of out of my reading slump after Island of Sea Women. All right, May. May was, I think, my best reading month. I didn't check out too many books, but I finished them all. I read Pretend I'm Dead by Jen Began. I really enjoyed Big Swiss, and, you know, it's more of the same from Began. I read Pizza Girl by Jin Kyung Fraser. Very fun, light read. I always enjoy a book about a messy lady making bad decisions. After that, I read another humongous book, The Ministry for the Future. This is by Kim Stanley Robinson. It is climate fiction. It's cli-fi. And I read it because I wanted to learn more about like the solar punk genre, and this book comes up a lot because it's kind of an optimistic, mostly realistic depiction of like, if we are going to save the planet, here's maybe the path to doing it. I did not realize how much climate anxiety I had until I finished this book and was, yeah, just like in a huge funky mood for a month. Like, if you saw me between finishing this book and now, I probably could only talk to you about the wet bulb point. The book that got me out of my climate anxiety doom spiral was Stay True. And I went into this not really knowing too much about it, but so much of the author's like youth and adolescence is like exactly like mine. Like, we lived in the same places, our parents made a lot of the same choices and decisions for the same reasons. And so when people say representation matters, I think it's for moments like these where you just feel like instantly connected to someone because of their unique upbringing. Now we're in June, and this is what I've got on the docket. So I finished I'm a Fan. I started reading it because after reading My Husband, someone recommended I'm a Fan because they have the same kind of like neurotic, obsessive main character. And I'm a Fan was equally fun for me to read. After that, I read Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. This is The Night Before Christmas. This is Kate and Leopold, but with like more guns, more secret agents. It was a very fun airport read. It got me through a super long flight, and for that I'm grateful. Alright, we did it. We made it through the list. If you made it this far, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.